Guys, if you haven't heard, Niantic completely changed the best Pokemon in Pokemon Go with a recent update. So today we're running through all the best new Pokemon to power up in Pokemon Go. Where should you be investing your Stardust and candy? Because unfortunately, some Pokemon that you might have powered up are just not as good anymore. I know it sucks. Let's get into it. So if you haven't seen, Niantic tweeted out, trainers, we launch improvements to raid battles to increase stability, reduce latency, and provide the ability to expand on them in the future. This may affect the timing of some Pokemon's moves. You're monitoring the changes and your feedback and may adjust them over time. Pretty much what this means is Niantic kind of changed how certain moves work in raids, and certain moves are now better. Things like Leaf Blade got worse. Things like Moongeist Beam got a lot better. So some of your Pokemon you might have powered up are going to be less useful now, but I will say there's not really any really top meta Pokemon that completely fell off. They just got a little bit worse. Nonetheless, let's get right into it. We're going to run through every single type in Pokemon Go, the best attackers now for each type in order, and how useful that type is. Starting off with, of course, the bug type. Now, in terms of usefulness, the bug type, not a very useful type. There's not a lot of Pokemon where bug type is the top choice. So I'm going to go with a 2 out of 5 rating. Don't really need to invest into these bug type Pokemon unless there's a Pokemon double weak to bug. By the way, we're going to be ranking these by overall attackers. That includes both its damage per second and TDO. So what are the best overall bug type attackers in Pokemon Go? Well, in the number 1 slot, we'll have Mega Heracross, Struggle Bug, Mega Horn, followed by Mega Pinsir, Bug Bite, X Scissor, Pheromosa with Bug Bite, Bug Buzz, Volcarona, Bug Bite, Bug Buzz, Mega Beedrill, Infestation, X Scissor, Shadow Pinsir, Bug Bite, X Scissor, Mega Caesar, Fury Cutter, X Scissor, Vikavolt, Bug Bite, X Scissor, and Yanmega, Bug Bite, Bug Buzz. In terms of the bug move that was nerfed, it was actually Fury Cutter. That's why you're seeing a couple Pokemon with Fury Cutter not as high on the list. Moving on to the Dark type. Overall, I'm going to give Dark type a 4 out of 5 usefulness rating. The reason is because when you do go up against Psychic Pokemon, you also resist Psychic type moves, making it a very good offensive and defensive type, and overall a pretty useful type in raids. In terms of the best, in order, we're going to have Mega Tyranitar in the number 1 slot with Bite, Brutal Swing, Shadow Tyranitar with Bite, Brutal Swing, Mega Houndoom with Snarl, Foul Play, Mega Gengar with Sucker Punch, Dark Pulse, Mega Gyarados, Bite, Crunch, Shadow Weavile with Snarl, Foul Play, Yveltal, Sucker Punch, Dark Pulse, Mega Absol with Snarl, Payback, Tyranitar with Bite, Brutal Swing, Hydreigon with Bite, Brutal Swing, and Darkrai with Snarl and Dark Pulse. It looks like the fast move Bite was nerfed a little bit for raids as a Dark type attacker, so that's why you're seeing a couple Pokemon move around there. Okay, let's move on to the Dragon typing. Now, in terms of usefulness for the Dragon type, I think it's a pretty useful type, and there's a lot of strong attackers. The thing is, you can only use them against other dragons. Now, they are super strong against other dragons, but overall, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 just because you don't really find the most use for it. In terms of the best ones, though, of course, Mega Rayquaza, number 1, Dragon Tail Outrage, followed by Mega Garchomp, Dragon Tail Outrage, Mega Salamence, Dragon Tail Draco Meteor, Palkia in the origin form, Dragon Tail Spatial Rend, Shadow Salamence, Dragon Tail Draco Meteor, Shadow Dragonite, Dragon Tail Draco Meteor, Shadow Garchomp, Dragon Tail Outrage, Mega Latios, Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, Dialga in the origin form, Dragon Breath, Roar of Time, Palkia, Dragon Tail Draco Meteor, Shadow Latios, Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, Mega Latias, Dragon Breath, Outrage, Salamence, Dragon Tail Draco Meteor, and Rayquaza, Dragon Tail Outrage. Overall, nothing really got nerfed in the Dragon category, but different moves got buffed. That's why you're seeing a little bit of changes there. I think Draco Meteor got a huge buff, so that's why you're seeing Dragonite prefer to run Draco Meteor over Outrage now. Let's move on to the Electric category. How useful is the Electric type category? I find it's a very useful type because there's a lot of flying type Pokemon in Pokemon Go raids. So overall, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 in terms of usefulness rating, and there's also a lot of strong Pokemon. Starting off with Shadow Magnezone, Spark Wild Charge, Shadow Raikou with Thunder Shock Wild Charge, Xurkitree with Spark Discharge, Manectric with Thunderfang Wild Charge, Shadow Luxray with Spark Wild Charge, Shadow Electivire Thunder Shock Wild Charge, Zekrom with Charge Beam Fusion Bolt, Shadow Zapdos Thunder Shock Thunderbolt, Magnezone with Spark Wild Charge, Thundurus in the Therian form, Volt Switch Wild Bolt Storm, Raikou with Thunder Shock Wild Charge, and Mega Ampharos with Volt Switch Zap Cannon. A lot of different moves got buffed in raids, specifically Spark got a huge buff. That's why you're seeing Pokemon like Magnezone in the number 1 spot. Moving on to the Fairy type. In terms of Fairy type usefulness rating, I think it's pretty useful. You can use it against dragons and fightings and dark types, but there's not really the strongest Pokemon. That's why I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 in terms of usefulness rating. Now, in terms of the best Fairy type attackers, Mega Gardevoir with Charm Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Gardevoir with Charm Dazzling Gleam, Enamorus with Fairy Wind Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Granbull with Charm Play Rough, Xerneas with Geomancy Moonblast, Gardevoir with Charm Dazzling Gleam, Hatterene with Charm Dazzling Gleam, Togekiss with Charm Dazzling Gleam, and Granbull with Charm and Play Rough. It looks like Moonblast, Play Rough, and Fairy Wind all got nerfs in terms of the Fairy type attacker, so that's why you're seeing a couple different changes in that category. Let's move on to the Fighting category. In terms of usefulness rating for Fighting type Pokemon, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4 out of 5. I think there's a lot of Dark, Rock, Ice type Pokemon, Steel type Pokemon you can go ahead and use these guys against, and there's also a lot of strong Fighting type attackers, so it never hurts to have a team of these Pokemon. In terms terms of the best, we're looking at Mega Lucario with Force Palm Aura Sphere, Keldeo Low Kick Sacred Sword, Pheromosa Low Kick Focus Blast, Terrakion Double Kick Sacred Sword, Shadow Conkeldurr Counter Dynamic Punch, Mega Blaziken Counter Focus Blast, Shadow Machamp with Counter Dynamic Punch, Shadow Hariyama Force Palm Dynamic Punch, Shadow Sock Low Kick Focus Blast, Mega Lopunny Low Kick Focus Blast, and Lucario Force Palm Aura Sphere. In terms of fighting category, Counter got nerfed, and it looks like Low Kick got a really big buff. That's why you're seeing Keldeo overtake Terrakion in terms of the best in Pokemon Go, but Terrakion's still very good. I know a lot of people have those powered up. Okay, the fire category, which one are going to be the best? In terms of usefulness rating, I think fire is kind of useful. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Obviously, there's some points when you want to use fire type Pokemon, but also I feel like there's usually a better type to go ahead and use, and it's not really the first team you should be building. In terms of the best, we're looking at Mega Blaziken, Fire Spin, Blaze Kick, Mega Charizard Y, Fire Spin, Blast Burn, Shadow Darmanitan, Incinerate, Overheat, Shadow Chandelure, Fire Spin, Overheat, Shadow Blaziken with Fire Spin, Blaze Kick, Blacephalon, Incinerate, Mystical Fire, Shadow Moltres with Fire Spin, Overheat, Shadow Ho with Incinerate, Sacred Fire Plus, Shadow Entei with Fire Spin, Overheat, and Shadow Infernape with Fire Spin, Blast Burn. Overall, it looks like a bunch of different moves were buffed, specifically things like Fire Spin and Overheat, but also it looks like Fire Fang was nerfed. That's why you're seeing different Pokemon drop like Reshiram, and also Blaze Kick got a big buff. That's why you're seeing Blaze Kick over Blast Burn on Mega Blaziken. Then let's move along to the flying type category, which is obviously dominated by one Pokemon. In terms of useless rating, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5. Not a lot of times you really want to use flying type Pokemon over other types of Pokemon. In terms of the best, we're looking at Mega Rayquaza Air Slash Dragon Ascent by a long shot, followed by Rayquaza Air Slash Dragon Ascent by a long shot, Shadow Honchkrow Peck Sky Attack, Shadow Unfezant Air Slash Sky Attack, Mega Pidgeot Air Slash Brave Bird, Shadow Staraptor Gust Fly, Yveltal Gust Oblivion Wing, Shadow Moltres Wing Attack Sky Attack, and Braviary Air Slash Brave Bird. It looks like Wing Attack got nerfed. That's why different Pokemon like Moltres are getting a huge drop. Also, Air Slash got buffed. Okay, let's talk Ghost type Pokemon. What are gonna be the best? In terms of Ghost usefulness rating, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5. A lot of people think Ghost is useful. Yes, you can use it against Ghost types and Psychic types, but really, you're taking super effective damage from those or neutral damage, and there's usually better options. I don't think it's the most useful type to power up, but there are strong attackers in this category, starting with Dawnwing's Necrozma, Shadowclaw Moongeist Beam, which is like one of the best attackers now in Pokemon Go as a whole. This move is so busted, you could use it in neutral scenarios like Mega Rayquaza. Also, Mega Gengar, Shadowclaw, Shadow Ball, Shadow Gengar, Shadowclaw, Shadow Ball, Mega Banette, Shadowclaw, Shadow Ball, Shadow Chandelure with Hex Shadow Ball, Shadow Banette, Shadowclaw, Shadow Ball, Gengar with Shadowclaw, Shadow Ball, Giratina with Shadowclaw, Shadow Force, Blacephalon, Astonish, Shadow Ball, and Chandelure with Hex and Shadow Ball. Pretty much all the moves in the Ghost type category got big buffs. That's why you're seeing just completely different things, and especially Moongeist Beam and Shadow Force, the 2 legacy moves, got really big buffs, making them really strong. Okay, let's talk Grass type. What are gonna be the best Grass type attackers? Well, in terms of Grass usefulness, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's a useful type, but there's generally just better Pokemon you can go ahead and use, and there's also not really the strongest Pokemon in the Grass category, but it is one of the categories that got one of the biggest changes. In terms of the best, we're looking at Mega Sceptile, Bullet Seed, Frenzy Plant, Mega Venusaur, Vine Whip, Frenzy Plant, Zarude, Vine Whip, Power Whip, Shadow Tangrowth, Vine Whip, Power Whip, Shadow Venusaur, Vine Whip, Frenzy Plant, Decidueye with Leafage, Frenzy Plant, Meowscarada, Leafage, Grass Knot, Kartana, Razor Leaf, Leaf Blade, Shadow Sceptile with Bullet Seed, Frenzy Plant, Shaman in the Sky form, Magical Leaf, Grass Knot, Chestnut with Vine Whip, Frenzy Plant, Shadow Torterra, Razor Leaf, Frenzy Plant, and Tangrowth, Vine Whip, Power Whip. Now the big one is Leaf Blade got nerfed in the Grass category. That's where we're seeing a bunch of different Pokemon go ahead and fall off a little bit, and also Vine Whip and Leafage got really big buffs. That's why you're seeing those moves move up the categories. What about the Ground type though? What has changed in the Ground type? Well, in terms of Ground type usefulness rating, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4 out of 5, and the main reason is because the only type that can hit Electric type Pokemon for super effective damage. So in that aspect, it is very useful type because there's only certain Pokemon that can only take super effective from Ground types. In terms of the best though, we're looking at Primal Groudon, Mudshot, Precipice Blades, Shadow Groudon with Mudshot, Precipice Blades, Mega Garchomp, Mudshot, Earth Power, Groudon, Mudshot, Precipice Blades, Shadow Garchomp, Mudshot, Earth Power, Landorus, Therian, Mudshot, Sandsear Storm, Shadow Excadrill, Mudshot, Scorching Sands, Mega Swampert, Mudshot, Earthquake, Garchomp, Mudshot, Earth Power, Shadow Mamoswine, Mudslap, High Horsepower, Shadow Rhyperior, Mudslap, Earthquake, Excadrill, Mudshot, Scorching Sands, Landorus Incarnate, Mudshot, Earth Power, and Shadow Hippowdon, Sand Attack, Scorching Sands. Now, obviously a huge buff in this category, and you'll notice for most categories, is just the legacy moves of legendary Pokemon. Precipice Blades got a huge buff. Now Shadow Groudon and Primal Groudon are attackers that can be used in neutral scenarios and do crazy amounts of damage. Also, it looks like Mud Slap got a nerf. That's why different Pokemon dropped, and Mud Shot got a buff. So Mud Shot over Mud Slap on your raid attackers now. What about the Ice category? Ice, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 usefulness rating just because I think there's a lot of Dragon type Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and Ice hits them for super effective damage without taking super effective damage in return. In terms of the best Ice type attackers in Pokemon Go, we are looking at Shadow Weavile, Ice Shard Avalanche, Shadow Mamoswine, Powder Snow Avalanche, Mega Glalie, Ice Shard Avalanche, Baxcalibur with Ice Fang Avalanche, Galarian Darmanitan, Ice Fang Avalanche, Glaceon with Ice Shard Avalanche, Weavile, Ice Shard Avalanche, Mamoswine, Powder Snow Avalanche, and Satitan with Ice Shard Avalanche. In terms of the Ice type category, different moves got buffed. Nothing really got nerfed. It looks like Avalanche got a huge buff. That's why you're seeing a bunch of Pokemon just get better. But yeah, not much has changed in this category. The top attackers are still the top. In terms of the normal type, we can go ahead and skip it because obviously it doesn't do super effective damage in raids, so there's no point in powering those up for raids. But in terms of the poison type, I'm gonna give it a usefulness rating of 3 out of 5. Now before I would give it 2 out of 5, but because I think there's more fairy type Pokemon appearing in Pokemon Go in the raids, Enamorus, Zacian, Xerneas with these newer generations, I think poison does see more of a use. And we've also seen a buff in poison type Pokemon over the years in which they are stronger. In terms of the best ones, Mega Beedrill, Poison Jab, Sludge Bomb, Nihilego, Poison Jab, Sludge Bomb, Overquill, Poison Sting, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Drapion, Poison Sting, Sludge Bomb, Naganadel, Poison Jab, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Toxicroak, Poison Jab, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Victory Bell with Acid, Sludge Bomb, Roserade, Poison Jab, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Vileplume, Acid, Sludge Bomb, and Shadow Alolan Muck, Poison Jab, Gunshot. The buffs for this category, well, there were none, just a bunch of moves were nerfed, so I completely take back. Poison types actually got a really big nerf. That's kind of crazy. It looks like the move Sludge Bomb and Poison Jab were nerfed this season, so that kind of sucks overall. Yeah, okay, maybe poisons aren't as good as I thought. I bet steel types are better for taking down fairies. Speaking of steel types though, let's talk about the best steel type Pokemon in Pokemon Go. I'm gonna give these guys a 4 out of 5 because they are strong. And again, steel type Pokemon go ahead and hit fairies for super effective damage, which is a rare ability to have. In terms of the best ones, we are looking at Duskmane Necrozma with Metal Claw, Sunseal Strike. By a landslide, this thing is the best. Followed by Shadow Metagross, Bullet Punch, Meteor Mash, Shadow Excadrill, Metal Claw, Iron Head, Dialga Altered with Metal Claw, Iron Head, Dialga Origin, Metal Claw, Iron Head, Shadow Empoleon, Metal Claw, Flash Cannon, Metagross, Bullet Punch, Meteor Mash, Mega Aggron, Iron Tail, Heavy Slam, and Excadrill, Metal Claw, Iron Head. A bunch of different moves like Metal Claw and Iron Head were buffed, and it looks like Bullet Punch was actually nerfed. That's why you're seeing Metagross and Shadow Metagross fall off a little bit. But for the longest time, this was the best steel type attacker, but now it's kind of getting beaten a little bit out, or almost out. Overall though, Duskmane Necrozma is still the #1 for steals. That brings us into our final 3 types, starting with Psychic type. Psychic, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 3 out of 5 usefulness rating. It is a very strong type, and obviously we have, Mewtwo in there, but I don't really find myself using Psychics too often, and sometimes there's actually just like a better option. Nonetheless, the best Psychic type Pokemon in Pokemon Go are going to be Shadow Mewtwo, Psycho Cut, Psystrike, Mega Alakazam, Psycho Cut, Future Sight, Mewtwo, Psycho Cut, Psystrike, Mega Latios, Zen Headbutt Psychic, Mega Gardevoir, Confusion Psychic, Shadow Latios, Zen Headbutt Psychic, Mega Latias, Zen Headbutt Psychic, Hoopa Unbound with Confusion and Psychic, Dawnwings Necrozma, Psycho Cut, Future Sight, Duskmane Necrozma with Psycho Cut, Future Sight, Shadow Metagross, Zen Headbutt Psychic, and Shadow Alakazam, Psycho Cut, Psychic. In terms of the Psychic category, nothing got nerfed, just a bunch of buffs to moves like Psycho Cut and moves like Psychic, so overall you're going to be seeing not too much change in that category. Again, Mewtwo is still just the #1 option. I always say, power up your Mewtwo's, they're good. Let's talk about the Rock category, the only category I'll ever give a 5 out of 5 stars in terms of usefulness rating. I actually calculated all the raid bosses in Pokemon Go, which type hits the most for super effective damage, and Rock is that category. I think the first team you should ever build in Pokemon Go is going to be a team of Rock types, so let's go through the best ones. Starting with Mega Tyranitar, Smackdown Stone Edge, Shadow Rampardos, Smackdown Rock Slide, Shadow Rhyperior, Smackdown Rock Wrecker, Shadow Gigalith, Smackdown Meteor Beam, Shadow Tyranitar, Smackdown Stone Edge, Mega Diancie, Rock Throw Rock Slide, Rampardos, Smackdown Rock Slide, Rhyperior, Smackdown Rock Wrecker, Shadow Aggron, Smackdown Meteor Beam, and Terrakion with Smackdown and Rock Slide. In terms of the Rock category, just a bunch of different moves got buffed, but Rock Throw actually got nerfed. That's why you're not seeing Mega Aerodactyl or Mega Diancie as high anymore. Overall though, Rock category is still very good, and still all the top attackers, not much has changed, just everything kind of got buffed, and maybe different Pokemon got a little bit better. Finally brings us into the last category, the Water type. The Water type category, I will give a 3 out of 5. Again, one of those categories where I find it's useful sometimes, but just you don't find yourself using your Water type teams as often, but there are certain scenarios where you can only really use Water types, or you want to use Water types. In terms of the best ones, you're going to see Primal Kyogre, Waterfall Origin Pulse, Shadow Kyogre, Waterfall Origin Pulse, Regular Kyogre, Waterfall Origin Pulse, Mega Swampert, Water Gun Hydro Cannon, Mega Gyarados, Waterfall Hydro Pump, Shadow Empoleon with Waterfall Hydro Cannon, Mega Blastoise, Water Gun Hydro Cannon, Shadow Feraligatr, Waterfall Hydro Cannon, Shadow Gyarados with Waterfall Hydro Pump, Primarina with Waterfall Hydro Cannon, Shadow Crawdaunt with Waterfall Crabhammer, Shadow Swampert with Water Gun Hydro Cannon, and Mega Sharpedo with Waterfall Hydro Pump. In terms of what changed in the Water category, just a bunch of moves got buffed, and specifically specifically Origin Pulse. Again, the Kyogre move got completely buffed, so now it is completely broken, and Kyogre, Shadow Kyogre, Primal Kyogre can just be used as any type of raid attacker because they're just so strong. And yeah, guys, that is all 18 types, all the new moves. Now, I just want to drop a quick theory. Based on looking through all these Pokemon, it looks like Niantic went ahead and buffed a lot of the legacy moves and signature moves on legendary Pokemon. I think Niantic realized that like people were paying a lot of money for these raid bosses and, you know, getting like a Dawnwing's Necrozma or getting like a Precipice Blades Groudon, and they weren't getting as much value. Now, however, it looks like those legendaries, things like Primal Kyogre, are just way above the rest. So there's a lot of value in raiding them and getting them because they're just so strong. Again, it could also be a play at getting people to do more raids for these and so they get more money, but it looks like a lot of the signature moves on legendaries got huge buffs, and maybe we'll see this more in the future. Now, I do want to say as well, Niantic did note in their tweet that they may change this stuff in the future, so it's almost kind of like a risk now for powering up Pokemon for raids because your top attackers could become kind of mundane. Nonetheless, though, as you've noticed, not too much has changed, but there are certain Pokemon like Kartana specifically, which was pretty expensive to power up, but now it's just not as good as a grass type attacker as it once was. Nonetheless, put in the comments below what your thoughts are on these changes. Do you like them? Do you not? I think it's kind of cool, I guess, new Pokemon to go ahead and hunt and try to get the best attackers of. And also watch the video below me if you enjoyed this one. You will enjoy that one as well. We'll catch you on the next one. Follow everybody. Peace.